I'd like to welcome you all to episode one of hopefully many of my podcasts. My name is France, Marine Corps veteran, just recently retired, and I started a nonprofit. So my nonprofit's there to help veterans, service members, first responders, and their families deal with work-related stressors to help them find healthier coping mechanisms than, let's say, what the VA provides. And you know how the VA is, they just push pills, right? I want to create a sense of community once those veterans get out, so that way they can still have that togetherness that they did when they were in the service. I also want to help their families out. I want to give their family members the education on how to deal with their veteran service member or their first responder, how to support them in their journey of either transitioning out of the service or something traumatic just happened, and hopefully, we get the message across that as a family member of a veteran, you're there to support. You're not there to add to the stress and to the trauma. And it's hard. It's hard for us veterans, especially when we don't ask for help. When we suffer in silence, when we think that, for example, for me, um I didn't think my issues were that serious because I know a million other guys that I served with that they've experienced a lot more traumatic stuff than I did. And I suffered in silence for a while because I didn't want to admit that I had these issues that affected me so much. A little bit of shame, a little bit of survivor's guilt. I didn't want to talk about it to anyone else. Never afraid of judgment, right? I was never afraid of judgment. It was just like, okay, I'm talking to someone about this, but I know that they have more problems than I do. I know that what they experience overseas may or may not have been more traumatic than what I've experienced. And it's not just overseas. It's on the home front, losing to someone losing someone close to you, to suicide, which is it's the main reason why I started this nonprofit. Like, I always knew that whenever I retired or got out of the service, whatever happened first, that I would be part of like a VSO or a nonprofit to help veterans out, to help, their families out and all that. But in July of 2020, I lost my brother to suicide. He was also a Marine, infantryman like myself. And once that happened, I knew that this was something I had to do for me. You know, I had to spearhead this movement, and hopefully, this I can impact some lives. I can help some individuals, if even if it's just one. That's a goal, is to help at least just one veteran or one first responder find something, a new outlet to deal with their PTSD, anxiety, depression, whatever else they're going through, suicidal thoughts, addiction. I do have a lot of buddies that I'm so freaking proud of, that they've been through the ringer, when they were in the service, when they're in the first responders. So I know a few cops and then a few firefighters that they got sober, and I am so freaking proud of them. And I tell them every chance I get that they're stronger than I am. And that's what I want to do with this nonprofit. If that's a route you want to go, I know a guy, as they say, I know a guy to put you in touch with, so that way you guys can kind of have that connection on a different level than just being veterans, than just being a cop or a firefighter, or whatever connection you guys have. Now you guys have this bigger connection of you trying to get sober, and now you're talking to this person that's been sober for, I think one of them's been sober for 4 years, the other one like two and some change. And I can't say enough about them. But anyway, so in the next couple of episodes, what I'll be doing is I'll be talking about PTSD. I'll be talking about my struggles with PTSD, not necessarily events that led up to that. It led up to me having PTSD, but how my life changed after the bang. A lot of us may be familiar with this phrase, you want to get left at a bang, right? So we didn't make it left at a bang, that's for sure. That's why we have veterans with issues like PTSD, anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts. I'm trying to get us as a veteran first responder community past the bang, if you would. And I'm going to be talking about myself for a little bit. I hate talking about myself. Hate hearing my voice. That's why it took me so long to actually record this podcast. Hopefully, this is the last take. I've recorded about 10 hours of material so far, and I can't get over the way my voice sounds. For anyone that's known me for the last 20 years in the service, I'm sorry you had to hear my voice. Yeah, it's pretty freaking annoying if I say so myself, right? So anyways, back to business. So I'm gonna be talking about my PTSD, what I did, how my life changed, and what I've been doing to not get over, because there's a huge misconception of, oh, you can just get over your PTSD, you can just get over your anxiety, you can just get over your depression. Absolutely not. It's always going to be there for you. Yeah. And it's always going to be with you, right? It's what we do after the fact, how we adjusted our lives, and hopefully most of us we've adjusted our lives in a healthy way to help combat these intrusive thoughts. I know me personally, I've done a lot of work on myself, speaking to someone one-on-one, going to a group, going to different kind of retreats or programs to help me not only understand why I'm feeling this way, but what I can do to adjust my lifestyle in a healthy way, to where I know it's always in the back of my mind. I know, like, those events, we can't like just wake up one morning like, oh, those events never happened. Like, we're okay. That's not how it fucking works at all. And there's again another huge misconception that's like, oh yeah, if we forgot about the event and never happened and we've trained our brain, blah blah blah, whatever. Yeah, that's not how that works at all, because I've tried it. Doesn't work. Um, and then I'll finish up with what my life looks like now. Now that um, I think that I'm in a decent spot to where I can actually look into the camera and talk to you about what I did to help with my PTSD, to help with my anxiety, to help with my depression, to help with some suicidal thoughts, because I've been there as well. After I lost my brother, I wanted to join him, but something inside of me, stopped me from that. And externally, I I have two kids, and they depend on me. I can't leave them behind. So that's, besides doing work on myself internally, doing work on myself externally, I can't I can't do that to my kids. So as far as my issues go, I would say I have more anxiety than anything. I have a lot of, and that's because of my PTSD. I always play out these scenarios in my head that, whatever can go wrong will go wrong. And that prevents me from doing a lot of things. It prevents me from getting into healthy relationships or relationships in general. Um, it prevents me from opening up to my friends, to those individuals that I was in a fighting hole with in Afghanistan or on a rooftop in Iraq, patrolling around the mountains of the Korangal or patrolling the streets of Haditha. Those guys that I shed blood with, those guys that I shed a tear with, when we saw ourselves at our highest point, when we peak like apex predators and no one can touch us, to where like we just wanted to curl up in a little ball and just like we're done. So I've seen those guys, and those guys have seen me in that position. And you would think going through something like that with someone, they'd be first one you call, right? But with me personally, I feel like I'm a burden, and me sharing what's going on in my life, that person's gonna take it on, and now they're gonna be like, oh, I gotta call friends, I gotta check in with friends, and like, that's my job. That's what I do. And you can ask anyone in my friend group, anyone that's known me for my time in the Marine Corps, and even some friends from high school. That's what I do. I check in. I check in on you. You don't check in on me. Um, and it was something very hard for me to accept, that I need to be checked in on sometimes. I need to be coddled is not the word, but I need to feel like someone's there for me to high five it out or give me a bro hug or whatever it is, right? And it was very hard for me to accept. And I've been doing a lot of work on myself the last couple of years. Before my brother took his life, I was doing a lot of work on myself. Um, and I thought I was in a really good spot. And then, when it rains, it fucking pours. Lost my brother in the middle of the pandemic. Um, and the person that I was prior to that, I wasn't that person anymore. And I ruined a lot of relationships. Because those people, they couldn't understand, why I changed. And I refused to open up and be like, oh, hey, this is why I changed. Like, my brother just fucking killed himself after I talked to him for 8 months straight, every day on the phone for at least an hour. I told him to go get help. He went, he got help. He said he was okay. And then um, I got that knock on the door. Um, well, my mom got the knock on the door. I was at a conference. Um, and she called me and she's like, what's going on? By then, I already knew. I thought it was I thought it was like a bad dream, right? I thought it was just like, no, this isn't happening. I even called him. I called him. I was like, hey, dickhead, fucking pick up. And he didn't pick up. And then my mom called me and she's like, hey, there's two Marines in uniform at the door. And that's when I knew it was real. So left the conference, met up with her, and then this is I'm rambling on. This is a story for another episode. But yeah, I did a lot of work on myself. My brother happened. I went back into that fucking fighting hole by myself, went internal by myself. Um, didn't want any outside help. Had a lot of good people in my life that all they wanted to do was help me, but I didn't want to accept the help because I felt like I needed to suffer. Like I failed my brother. I do have crazy bad survivor's guilt as well. Again, subject for another episode. Um, so after I lost my brother, I started doing some work. It took me a little bit. Honestly, it took me a couple months to actually like dig deep and be like, okay, I need help. I need to I need to do something different than just a basic help that I was getting. Started leaning on alcohol a lot. I wouldn't say controlled my life, but it was just like anytime I would have a feeling of like I'm replaying the day that I heard my brother took his life. I was like, you know what, I need a fucking drink, and I would have a drink, and then kind of level out. It would still be there, it'd still be on the forefront of my mind, but at least I was a little like buzzed, and so I was leveled out and all that stuff. And I know it sounds fucking horrible, but again, I've been doing a lot of work on myself. I am no longer in that position anymore. I'm not sober by any means, but I have cut down a lot on alcohol. Never took drugs or anything like that. So the work that I did was I started seeing like an actual, like a serious therapist, someone that could actually help me. Because nothing against my last therapist, they just weren't properly equipped to deal with my shit. Did the EMDR, did the cognitive rehabilitation therapy, whatever the acronym is for that. We talk every week. On top of that, I get homework from my therapist, right? Um, and that homework helps a lot because it's like, hey, like after you're done talking for an hour about all this shit, like, okay, bye, see you next week. And then you're just sitting there in your chair, like I've done a lot of times, like, fuck, like I just got into that hole again. I'm stuck now. Like, what the hell do I do? And that's when it hit me, the homework that my therapist was giving me, that's what that's for. That's what the homework's for. It's to help maintain my sanity, if you would, until our next session. Um, and it helped a lot. I started reading a lot more. I started listening to more positive things on the internet. And a lot more about like leadership and overcoming adversity. Got I dove deep into Jordan Peterson's way of thinking. I have both of his books behind me. Oop, oop. That's how cameras work, right there. Um, and I can honestly say, starting this nonprofit has helped me a lot because it gives me a purpose again. Um, and for me, that's like the most important thing. I needed a purpose. I like being an infantryman in the Marine Corps, being on recruiting duty and all that stuff. You always had a purpose. You always had a mission. And towards the end of my time, I was trying to take care of myself, trying to take care of my family. And I felt like I didn't have a purpose outside of that anymore. And I started getting like all the anxiety started building up. Like, okay, so now when I retire from the Marine Corps, what the fuck am I going to do? What's going to be my purpose? And starting this nonprofit is something that's been helping me a lot because the in the back of my mind, I know the little shit that I post on social media and all my little TikTok motivational one-liners that I do. Um, I know it's reaching somebody, and I don't care about the likes or the loves or the reshares, even though please do. Let's get this message out there to a bigger audience, but um little comments from people that I went to freaking high school with that I haven't talked to in years. Just DM me and, hey man, thanks for that video. Thanks for those words. I really needed to hear that today. And I was like, okay, there it is. This is why I'm doing this. This is my purpose. And that's helped me a lot with my PTSD, anxiety, depression, my SI. um just knowing that I need to snap back into being that. And I know this is going to sound contradictory as fuck compared to what I said earlier. I need to snap back into reaching out reaching out. I'm the guy to reach out. You don't fucking reach out to me, right? Um, but in a way, with them reaching out to me and me getting positive feedback, some negative feedback, or constructive feedback. I can't fucking talk apparently. That all that stuff helps. It helps me get better. It helps me gives me a little more confidence in what I'm doing. It's actually affecting someone, and I'm just not talking to fucking camera with no one on the other side watching. How my life has changed since I've implemented these, let's call it safeguards, right? Like everything's still there, like everything's still fresh, but I know, and I never thought I would see inspiration in this person, but Pete Davidson of all people, love him, think he's a fucking funny ass guy, but funny ass guy, right? He was doing an interview and they're talking about suicide and depression and all that stuff. And the interview asked him, he's like, hey, like, are you ever suicidal? He's like, yeah, all the fucking time. Like super nonchalant. And as I'm listening to this, I wasn't expecting to hear that. I was like, okay, where is he going with this? He's like, yeah, but now I know my steps. Now I know I need to go outside and touch grass. I need 10 minutes of sun. I need to have my morning coffee. And that's not exactly what he said. I'm just paraphrasing. You can go look it up if you want. But that resonated with me, and ever since then, like every morning I wake up and like, I'm not going to lie, every morning I wake up, I'm like, shit. Okay. So we're doing this again. And then I remember what freaking Pete Davidson said, man. And I was like, all right, I know what I need to do. I need to get up. I need to make my kids breakfast after they're done. I'm done with their breakfast. They're going to eat. I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to hygiene. I'm going to get dressed for the day. Come down. The timer on the coffee pot's going to go off. My coffee's going to start brewing. I'll come down to a hot cup of coffee and start my day that way. I sit in the same position in my office, for the most part, answer the same emails over and over again because people just like asking the same questions over and over again. But that's how I get my day started. And if I get my day started that way, I know that even though all that shit's like in the back of my mind and anything can trigger it, I'm gonna get back to the word trigger real quick. Anything can trigger it. I know that I started my day on the right foot, and I'm gonna continue to have a good day unless something fucking ungodly happens. So the word trigger, I freaking hate the word trigger, right? I understand the meaning, but you have a certain group of people. I'm not trying to fucking get canceled or whatever, or single anyone out, but you have a group of people that use the word trigger for fucking everything, and it's lost its meaning, it's lost its value. So that's my little rant on the word trigger and in the society that we live in. See, now I'm getting all fucking worked up. Remember my steps, maybe? So I put these little safeguards in place to where I know my steps. I know what I'm doing on a daily basis, and something that's really helped me a lot. And as you guys get to know more about me and more about my story, I'm all sorts of messed up, right? My back's all sorts of messed up. My shoulders are messed up. Not only is it wear and tear from being in the service, but I got injured overseas on my last deployment. So that kind of enhanced everything. I got crazy bad TBI. But one thing that's really helped me was, and it has always helped me, is being physically active, not physically fit. I still got a long way to go to be physically fit, but just being active. I go to the gym almost every day. And on the days I don't go to the gym because I'm having a bad back day and I could barely move and all that stuff, that shit really fucking affects me. But I know that I skipped the gym today to take care of myself physically and mentally, take care of whatever ailments I have. I'll have a good workout tomorrow. And that's just another thing I put into place when it comes to the gym and when it comes to my daily life. Another thing that's been really motivating me to go to the gym every day is my son. He works out with me every day, and the kid's getting fucking big. So he's going to be a stud. He already says he wants to be a Marine. He wants to follow in my footsteps, his uncle's footsteps, and I tell him, I was like, listen, like you're smart. You're way smarter than I am. Let's have the military as an option. Let's have the Marine Corps as an option, but let's see how you feel about it in 5 years from now when he graduates high school. Let's see where you're at then, right? Maybe don't even go to college. Go to a freaking trade school. Learn a trade, because trades aren't going away. AI is taking over everything here pretty soon, and I think, and this is my opinion, I think AI is going to take over all the engineering jobs, all the cybersecurity jobs, all that stuff. So, scary time to be in those fields. But yeah, I told him, listen, when we get there, we'll get there. I'll make sure you're physically fit for the military. And if you decide not to go, at least you'll be a jacked ass fucking 18-year-old in college. Hopefully get on like a sports team or something. But as far as what I like to see future me accomplish with everything that I put into place, all the work that I've done, all the goals that I've set for myself, I want to be able to wake up in the morning and just fucking wake up. Like, I heard that's normal. Like, people just fucking wake up and they look around like, cool, let's get the day started, instead of waking up and like, fuck, okay, we're doing this again. I heard it's normal. Some people, I might be getting some fake news or whatever, but some people, that's how they wake up, that's weird to me. So future me, that's one of my big goals. My other big goal is to grow this nonprofit to where this is what I'm doing full time. All I want to do is help. And if it occupies my entire day, talking to a veteran, talking to first responder, getting them hooked up with the right care outside of the VA. Maybe it's art therapy. Maybe it's, equestrian. Is that how you say it? Horseback riding, those things. Maybe it's like sending them on a fishing trip or get them hooked up to do golf lessons or something. If it takes me all day to make that happen, that's what I want to do. That day would definitely be, in my eyes, a success. So future me, that's where I'm at. So as far as the next episodes goes, I'm gonna have a few guests on from all walks of life outside of the service, right? So these guys, I served with them. Some of them I know through the guys that I served with them directly, and they got out and they became nurses, paramedics, firefighters, cops, Homeland Security, and I want to have those guys on to tell their story. Of course, the story that they're comfortable with telling. I'm not here to force anyone to say something that they don't feel comfortable with telling, but I want to show everyone that the difference of PTSD, anxiety, depression from just a serviceman's perspective to a serviceman transferring over to being a cop, a police officer, same fucking thing. A cop, a firefighter, um, paramedic, any kind of first responder type field, and what new and exciting fucking issues they got, what new and exciting PTSD triggers and anxiety and depression they got, and how it differs from being stateside, being home, and how that affects them from being overseas. And when we experience something traumatic, like um, when we're overseas, it's different, right? Because we're all in black. Like Cooper's color code, we're all in black. Fun fact: he spent some time with a Marine Corps unit, and he's like the color black was never on Cooper's color code on his little color wheel. And when he spent the time with Marines that were ramping up to go on deployment and all that stuff, he's like, I gotta add a new category. I gotta add a new color because these dudes are fucking nuts. They're on a different level. So Cooper color code black. You can thank the Marine Corps for that one. But we, as most of you listening to this know, we do a pretty intensive workup to get there, to get into black. So that way, when we're overseas, we're not looking at those individuals and combat related deployments, not humanitarian and all that stuff. But we're not looking at those people overseas as the same as U.S. citizens, right? Everyone out there is out there to kill us, but at the same time, we're there to protect them from the actual bad guys. So we're not going there kicking down every door, fucking shooting at everyone we see, right? But we have the mentality, that switch goes off in our head. And I only know that. And I want to bring these guys on the show, and I want them to, number one, tell me and the rest of you what the difference is experiencing a traumatic event on the home front, and how that affected them and what they've been doing to get past that. And again, the whole purpose of this is hopefully what they say and what I say in the next upcoming episodes, it helps. It helps at least one person, or it's like, so someone's like, oh, you know what? I need to implement that. Like, I never thought that would help me. Or, oh, cool. I thought I was the only one going through this. I thought I was the only one that felt like this, and I was the only one that did this to help myself and help others around me. So that's what you guys have to look forward to in the next couple episodes. I do have a merch site up, not much, but everything goes to the nonprofit. All proceeds go to nonprofit to help put together events for veterans, service members, their families, and first responders and their families, to help them find healthier coping mechanisms to deal with their issues, and to, most importantly, rekindle that sense of community that we had when we were in the service, when we were living in a barracks, being a bunch of fucking delinquents on the weekends and all that stuff. I want us to go back to, as a society, as a veteran community, I want us to have that community again, like we did when we were in the service. And I think that'll help, because I know me personally, that's helped a lot. Like, I host a reunion every year, and whoever can make it can make it. And like, for those 24 to 48 hours, I can see the look on my guys' eyes, the ones that make it. And it's like they haven't skipped a beat since they gotten out. They're just so happy, and I'm happy too, to just be around like-minded individuals. And then, just like a bunch of old timers, we go back and talk about war stories and the good, the bad, the ugly times, exchange a few shots, talking shit to each other, reminding each other that, hey, you weren't shit back in the day, but you kind of were. That's what I want for everyone else that's struggling and doesn't have a sense of belonging once they exit the service, or those first responders, once they experience something traumatic on the home front, they feel isolated because it's like, oh shit, I just had to deal with X, Y, and Z. Like, I need to isolate myself because no one knows what I'm going through, right? Um, so that's the ultimate goal. I will put the merch link in the bio down there. Maybe, I don't know. Wherever it's at, it's there. It's going to be Atlas Rising Initiative. Is the name, and I do have an Instagram, Atlas Rising Initiative, all underscores in between the words, and I'll put a link wherever a link goes. Can you tell this is my first time doing a podcast? Cool. Um, Anyways, thank you all for listening. For everyone that's made it to the 36-minute mark, I appreciate you. I look forward to getting some feedback, um, positive feedback, reinforcing feedback, negative feedback. I'll take it all. So that way I can get better. I can keep doing things that you guys like hearing, or talking about things that you guys like hearing about, or I can, kind of dial back a few things that you guys are, I may or may not have made a few of you feel isolated, and by no means is that is never my intentions. But just like everyone else, I have my own opinion, and I do want my opinion to be heard in a sense to where it's my opinion. It's not fucking doctrine, it's not gospel, it's just my opinion. So again, thank you all that stuck around. I look forward to the feedback again, and as always, if you don't feel like talking to someone that 988 Veterans Press 1, you're not allowed to quit.